Hey all, welcome back to my channel. If you haven't been here before, my name is Julie and I mostly make content surrounding topics such as music, makeup, as well as mental health. Today's video is music related, and this idea was inspired by John from ARTV because this time of year John does all of his end of year lists and I find it to be really exciting. I have always thought about doing a top 5 favorite albums for the year video and never gone around to it. So I wanted to do that today. Of course, I'm on my webcam because I'm running low on spoons, and this is going to be very casual. Disclaimer, I am no music critic by any means. I'm not speaking on this album is great and I have all this evidence as to why, because this is not a job. It's just a hobby. We're allowed to like music, and that's that. So this is just a fan that is talking about music they like. So I have a list next to me that I'm looking at on my computer of my top 5, and I'm going to speak on each briefly. I have no script, and I just wanted to say what albums I really liked this year. I will admit my mental health has been bad, like really bad, and so I've been so depressed I think most of this year that I haven't even listened to a lot of releases. Prior to this video I was looking up all the releases for this year and going, oh, that band released something, so like I don't have the expertise of actually listening to all the bands that I should have. I'm gonna correct that judgment. I could have. Let's get into our top 5 here. Number 5, I was waffling between 2 albums, but I actually went with Architect's album that came out this year called For Those That Wish to Exist. I probably have listened to this the least out of the top 5, hence it being the last one on the list, but I recently have gotten a lot more into Architects. I've always liked them. Every time I've listened to them, I'm like, they sound really good. Architects is amazing production. Like, I think you really cannot go wrong with the production on their albums. It's incredible. So I really, truly enjoyed this album overall. I think I'm looking at my phone for the song list. I love the song Dead Butterflies and Animals. Meteor's good too. Probably like most of the singles are the ones that caught my attention, and I had the longest time to listen to Animals. But overall, I just feel like Architects knows what they're doing with an album. It's a comprehensive piece to listen to, and I highly recommend Architects to anybody and everybody. And I don't really have much to say about my number 5. I just needed a number 5. The runner-up was Brand of Sacrifice's Lifeblood, which I also really liked. I'm not really into deathcore all that much, but it was definitely one of my partner's favorite albums for the year, so I was hearing it a lot. I also attended a listening party for that with my friend Sarah a long time ago, because she really likes that album. So definitely if people around me that I care about like music, it tends to rub off on me depending. Moving on from that ramble, number 4 is Eternal Blue by Spiritbox, and you're gonna be like, why is this so low? I love Spiritbox. Spiritbox deserves to be here, and that album Eternal Blue is really, really good. It's definitely grown on me. I love the song Circle With Me. Constance is a very emotional song, but of course it is very moving and a very well produced song, as was that album as a whole, just like I said about Architects. My favorite songs on Eternal Blue might be different than when I did my review. I'd say Sunkiller, Silk and the Strings, and Circle With Me. But my top favorite song, and I know this is John from ARTV's top favorite song, is Yellow Jacket. And that ties into why I went back and started listening to Architects more and found more of an appreciation for them. I mean, if you're going to have Sam Carter from Architects feature on a song, it's going to be the best song on the album. That song just has so much energy to it, and to have 2 strong vocalists in one go, you cannot go wrong with Spiritbox. And I like that some songs on Eternal Blue are lighter than others. Like, there's different pacing to the songs, and definitely in the lyricism, you know, it varies topics we're talking about. Like, it's really sad to think about an elderly person dealing with dementia and thinking about what life will be like. That's starting the grief process. Constance is very deep, and that's why it's deserving of being at the end. But I definitely am happy with the Spiritbox album, Eternal Blue, and that is why it's on here. Is everyone ready for number 3? I think we need to take a sip of our drinks before we talk about number 3. Okay, this has become mental health related now because my number 3 is Burnham's Inside. Yep, it's above Spiritbox and Architects. Well, I love Bo Burnham so much. I am trying to figure out what my special interests are, and over this year, Bo Burnham was something that just sparked something strong inside of me. It was overbearing. I first watched the special Inside a few months ago, and I have a lot of trouble concentrating on TV, and I was glued to my TV for that hour and a half for the special. I was just blown away. And then it was great in clinical practice because I had clients who watched it and had brought it up, and I knew what they were talking about, and then they knew I liked it. It helped to build rapport, which was really exciting. Obviously, Inside is very mental health related. Now, what I have pointed out to people is that watching the special can be very activating versus listening to the album. I know it still can be for a lot of people, and that's why a lot of people might check out Inside once and they're like, oh, it's too close to home. For me, I have been living with agoraphobia since 2014. So for Bo to be talking about it, even if it was pandemic-related agoraphobia, it was so validating for me, but it wasn't shocking because my life in the pandemic is just an extension of the life I already had. And I know that's really weird to say and admit, but it just felt like, yes, everyone, this is what it's like to barely ever leave your house and be terrified of people and things like that. Of course, there are other factors that make the pandemic far, far worse, and I'm not trying to negate any of that at all because it's horrifying. But moving on, Bo gets at self-esteem difficulties, anxiety, depression, loneliness, irritability, right? Trauma responses. He has little identity disturbances and breakdowns within the special Inside. And there's also this social justice perspective of Inside of all of these societal issues that Bo is bravely and proudly bringing up that we need to discuss. Something that's so entertaining to listen to is also just very overpowering. And that is why I love this special so much. I think it just brought mental health awareness that we all needed in, yes, a funny way, and also a very sincere way where we can sit down and have conversations with people. Hey, did you check out Bo Burnham's Inside? Oh, how have you been feeling throughout the pandemic? See how this work of art inspires a conversation for people. If you want to know favorite tracks of Inside, I can do that too. Bezos One is probably one of my favorites for sure. I would say that Problematic, shit, definitely shit, and All Eyes on Me, just because it's so pretty, are probably my favorites out of the whole thing. But Comedy too. I guess it's hard for me to decide overall, but definitely Comedy too. I think that's a good song as well. So I could talk about Bo Burnham and make a whole separate video because it is a special interest and I noticed myself talking more. I'm gonna move on. Number 2, I haven't talked about this band on my channel and I really should. It's Nothing Nowhere, and it's their album that came out February 19th, Trauma Factory. I was recommended this by my friend Alex. Hi Alex, I don't know if you watch this, but he recommended it on my Discord server. Alex is one of my online friends, and I had checked out Nothing Nowhere before and I had enjoyed his music, but I wasn't familiar with this album, and once I listened to it a lot last year. Just doing my makeup in the morning and going, wow, this is getting really deep. I mean, Fake Friend. Every time a friendship didn't work out, I was like, Siri, play Fake Friend by Nothing Nowhere. I just needed it to happen. So I'm going to tell you favorite tracks on this album. And now the reason that it's so high up here is just because of the emotional impact this album has. There's no comedy to it like Bo Burnham's Inside. I mean, again, we know why I appreciate that, but it's just right to the point. It's very direct and right to the point. I mean, the album is literally called Trauma Factory, and the line in it is, life is a trauma factory. Yes, it is. And this goes with my theory as a trauma-informed provider that we all live through traumatic events. We may not all have PTSD. We're all living through a traumatic event in the pandemic right now, too. So it's really crucial that we're talking about trauma and that we are trauma-informed, whether we're in the mental health field or not, because we need to be talking about these topics. I would say that Nightmare is definitely probably my other favorite song on the album. Fake Friend, Nightmare, and Lights. I love that this song is dancey, that it's stimmy for me, that it helps me to move my body and regulate, while also the lyricism is just getting to a real point about mental health related topics, and I think it does so in just a really empowering way that made me feel like, wow, this person gets it. And this person is writing content that's gonna inspire people to go get help and go to therapy. They're gonna say, oh, this resonates. Oh, I need some therapy. And so I love music that helps to destigmatize mental health and isn't really glamorizing it or anything. And I just really appreciate this album as a whole for what it is. So that's why it's really high up there. We all know what number one is. We all know. Okay, well, number one is Waterparks' Greatest Hits. I wouldn't say this is my favorite Waterparks album of all time. Entertainment's probably still my favorite. I do like Greatest Hits better than Fandom. I don't know. Maybe I didn't fully decide that yet. I was very happy with Greatest Hits because Waterparks, as we all know, is my favorite band. So I would have been pretty shocked if I wasn't happy with it. I think it took a little bit for Greatest Hits to grow on me. Apparently my most played song last year was Snow Globe. I played it 47 times. I love Snow Globe. I love dancing to Snow Globe. Even my mom likes the song Snow Globe. I can tell you my favorite Waterparks tracks off Greatest Hits as well. I like Fuzzy. Violet. Violet is probably my favorite song on the whole album. I'm talking about a mental health related song. And we don't ever get mental health wise into the concept of stalking and celebrity stalking and like why do people do it and how do we help someone in therapy to work through that. And so I really like that concept came up and it was something that Austin had lived through in his personal life. And he, spoke about it openly and honestly and made a cool song about it, which to me, I'm always like, that stalker must be so excited about that song. Like, they must be so hyped that Waterparks made that song. And I think I said that in my review as well. We have Just Kidding. I loved that song. And Crying Over It All is really, really good. I do think it's funny that they renamed See You in the Future to See You in the Future because of a tattoo that got messed up. But I also think that was a really good ending to the album. And Numb and Low Key as Hell are good tracks as well. Like, all the singles in general on the album are good. And I do like how playful Waterparks albums can be, that there are certain like silly parts, but then there's other really serious parts. Like Just Kidding. It's talking about ideation. Just filtering out the words for YouTube. But I feel like we should talk about those things. I don't think we should be censored to talk about those things. The research shows that talking about those things doesn't make people do those things. Talking about those things is prevention, and we need more prevention for that kind of stuff. So I really appreciate Austin's openness in talking about Just Kidding and his own mental health struggles. I even saw him recently talk about how he goes to therapy on Saturdays, which is, I was like, oh, I wish I was a therapist. Austin, I would be very biased, so probably not, but that's really cool. But definitely Greatest Hits is an album I'm happy with. I've listened to it over and over and over. And as a Waterparks fan, I know I'm going to be biased. That's my top 5 that I just wanted to sit here, hang out, and ramble about. I hope it was beneficial for you and that you enjoyed chit-chatting about music with me today. So thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and I'd love for you to subscribe to my channel as well. And I will catch you all on the flip side. Bye, all.